Hello, welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick. In this video I'm going to be comparing the Nike Vomero Plus and the Brooks Glycerin Max. So the Glycerin Max and the Vomero Plus are two of the best max cushion shoes on the market in my opinion. Both of them offer a huge amount of foam underfoot, but are pretty versatile daily trainers for their size and comfortable and fun to run in general. The Glycerin Max is the more expensive shoe. It costs £180 or $200, whereas the Nike Vomero Plus is £155 or $180. Nike is a little bit lighter as well. It's 300 grams or 10.6 ounces in the UK 9. The Glycerin Max is 319 grams or 11.2 ounces in the UK 9. Both of those are US 10s. Part of the reason the Nike is a bit lighter is that it's got a higher drop, so there's a little bit less foam under the forefoot. It has a 10mm drop, whereas the Glycerin Max has a 6mm drop. Both of them stand 45mm high at the heel. The Nike drops to 35mm at the forefoot, whereas the Glycerin Max drops to 39mm. When it comes to the design of the Vomero Plus, you've got a pretty thick upper that's not the most breathable, but certainly gives you a lot of comfort with loads of padding around the tongue and heel of the shoe. There's an internal heel counter, so add some structure there. And your foot sits within sidewalls of foam to give you more support and stability at the back of the shoe. You've got a very high stack of ZoomX foam in the midsole. ZoomX is a PEBA-based foam, and it's a very bouncy and fun foam that's used across a range of Nike shoes. Nike does tweak the formation of the foam depending on the shoe it's in, and in this case it's a very soft and comfortable version of ZoomX you have here with a lot of bounce. Then you've got a high abrasion rubber outsole with most of the bottom of the shoe well covered. Glycerin Max, you've also got a nice mesh upper that's fairly thick and with loads of padding around the tongue and heel. Both of these are max cushion shoes primarily designed for comfort, so you've got very comfortable uppers on them. The sidewalls are foam again, and the foam used is DNA tuned. This is a dual density midsole from Brooks that has a nitrogen infused EVA foam. You've got larger cells of the foam at the back to give it a softer feel to cushion your landings, smaller cells at the forefoot to create a slightly more responsive feel, so you do get a bit of pop off the toes with the Glycerin Max. You've got Brooks's glide roll rocker on the shoe, and then you've got a rubber outsole. It's a pretty thick layer of rubber, but the coverage is not as extensive as that of the Vomero Plus. You've got good coverage on the forefoot and heel. I wouldn't expect any problems with durability with the Glycerin Max, but it's not quite as full an outsole as the one on the Nike. When it comes to fit of the two shoes, I've got my normal size here, which is UK 9, US 10. The fit's very good in both of these, I would say. I've got a good amount of room around the toes, so even on long runs, my feet don't hit the front of the shoe at all, or even when running down hills. Good hold around the heel and midfoot as well. Both of them have lots of padding, and I think if you're running in hot conditions a lot, you might find them slightly oppressive, but it hasn't been a problem for me really running here in the UK. I think the design around the heel on the Nike is a little bit more comfortable for me. It just seems to protrude inwards a little bit more on the Brooks, so I can feel it on the back of my kind of Achilles a little bit more, but I've not had any real problems with it. I think both of them have well designed, comfortable uppers, a little bit thick, but because you're getting a lot of padding here, you kind of expect that, and that's more or less par for the course with these big cushion shoes. You always get quite a padded feel on them. For length though, I would stick to your normal running shoe size. On to the run test, and I've done quite a lot of running in both of these shoes. I ran 70k in the Brooks Glycerin Max when it first launched, and I've run about 100k now in the Nike Vomero Plus. I do think these are both really good shoes that are primarily designed for your easy and long runs, your daily training runs. We're just heading out the door to run at a fairly relaxed pace, and I've done a lot of that kind of running in both of these shoes, but I have also used them for some mild progression runs, moving to kind of tempo paces, kind of slower race paces even in these two shoes, and I do think they handle that a bit better than the majority of the max cushion shoes out there because they have a little bit more versatility to them while still primarily being focused on comfort above all. With the Brooks, that kind of versatility comes from a firmer ride feel. You get a bit more pep from this DNA-tuned midsole foam. Like it's still soft and cushy for sure, especially at the heel, but it has got a firmer feel than the Nike, and you get rolled through quite swiftly onto your forefoot, where you do get a reasonably firm platform to push against, which is good for me on easy runs. It helps you tick over. It's still comfortable. You're not going to get any kind of discomfort here from the shoe in terms of the amount of foam you have underfoot, but you do also get a nice firm platform to push against, which also gives it a bit more natural stability, something that's added to by the fact it's a little bit wider than the Nike, I would say, and in general Brooks makes all of their big cushion neutral shoes pretty stable, so you don't have to worry about that too much unless you're quite a severe overpronator or really worried about that kind of thing. You have got the glide roll rocker on the shoe. It's quite an odd rocker, I would say, in that it really is condensed into a very small section of the forefoot. You have quite a flat base on the shoe, most of the length of it, and then quite a sharp rocker at the forefoot there, and it's not quite as smooth off the toes as the Nike as a result, I would say. Mostly the ride feels a little bit flatter, I would say, from that big bulk of the midsole that is almost at the same level. It's comfortable, protective, but you don't really get a really smooth heel-to-toe transition. I think you get a slightly better one on the Nike. As of pretty much all Brooks shoes, you have a very consistent feel to the foam. What I mean by that is, like, when you get to the end of a run, the foam feels exactly the same as it did at the start of the run. I've even done a 32k long run in the Glycerin Max, and you've got the same feeling throughout the run. The foam doesn't bottom out, it doesn't compress too much on the run. It really gives you the same amount of energy return throughout the run. It's very durable as well, and that consistency is different to some of these big Max cushion shoes, which can be a bit too soft, and then when you sink in, by the end of a run, they're not really bouncing back in the same way. That's never a concern with the Glycerin Max. It's not a concern actually either with the Nike, even though it is a soft shoe, and it is softer than the Brooks, especially at the heel when you're landing in it. You do get a lot more sink into the foam on the Vomero Plus, but then that energy really comes back to you quickly from this Zoom X midsole. You get a lot of energy returns. You never feel like you're wading through kind of soft foam, and like I say, the rocker on the shoe is pretty smooth as well, so you're rolled onto your forefoot, then you get all that nice bounce back from the Zoom X foam in the midsole there. Like, I've done long runs in the Nike Vomero Plus as well, and I haven't had any concerns about it bottoming out either. Like, it really does give you a lot of bounce throughout the length of a run, even on quite long progression runs where I'm starting to run faster by the end of them, and putting a bit more force into the shoe. That force is coming back in spades thanks to the energy return of this Zoom X midsole. So definitely the ride is bouncier on the Vomero Plus, I would say. Like with the Brooks, maybe with my running style, like I have quite a high cadence style, I'm not necessarily the most impactful runner on a shoe, especially when running at more relaxed paces. I'm not sure I'm really making enough of a dent into that DNA tuned foam to really get a huge amount of bounce back from it, whereas the Nike feels a lot easier to unlock the bounce. Like, you sink into it a bit more and you get a lot more bounce back, so the ride does feel softer, springier than the ride on the Brooks. And for me also, the Nike does feel a bit lighter and nimbler. Like, it's got that slightly narrower design than the Brooks, which probably makes it the less stable shoe, especially as it has got a softer foam. It also, it is lighter on paper, and it feels quite a lot lighter at faster paces than the Brooks as well. Like, with this very high midsole throughout the length of the shoe on the Brooks, it can feel a little bit boat-like, and that's great for ticking along at relaxed paces, but it doesn't really give you a nimble feel to the shoe at all. Like, it's not an agile shoe. It's built for cruising along at a pretty consistent pace. You can go through the gears a little bit in the Brooks, but it's easier to do so in the Nike, which, even though it is a big modern Max cushion shoe, does feel a bit more like a traditional trainer than the Brooks does. The Brooks does have a lower drop, which will appeal to some runners for sure. I would say with the drop on the Nike, it doesn't feel like a 10mm drop shoe in the same way something like the Pegasus does. Like, Nike's Pegasus line with their 10mm drops really do snap through, and you can really feel the lower forefoot compared to the heel. Like, the foam is very high at both the heel and the forefoot in the Nike, even with that 10mm drop, and because it's so soft at the heel and you've got that smooth rocker, it does smooth out a bit more to not feel at all slappy or anything like that, like you sometimes get with higher drop shoes. So the Brooks is a lower drop shoe for sure, but yeah, the way the Nike rolls through, I think the transition is very good on it. Did do a short run wearing both shoes at the same time, and you certainly really feel the extra sink in and then bounce back of the Nike compared to the Brooks. So you also feel that smoother rocker off the toes as well. Like I say, the Brooks is a very sharply rockered shoe, and actually you don't really feel the benefit of the rocker until the end of that foot strike because of the way it's condensed into the forefoot of the shoe, whereas the Nike transition all the way from heel to toe feels a bit more natural and smooth to me as a heel striker. So it comes to the verdict. This is a pretty easy one for me because I prefer the feel of the Nike Vomero Plus, and it's the cheaper of the two shoes. So yeah, I would pick it up ahead of the Brooks. I would use it for any kind of run ahead of the Brooks as well. There are some distinctive features to the Brooks that might make it a bit more appealing to some runners. Like, it has got that slightly firmer feel, which runners might enjoy a bit more than the softer Nike Vomero Plus. You've got the lower drop, and you've got a slightly more stable shoe, I would say, in the Glycerin Max. However, on those points, like, I don't think the Vomero Plus is a particularly unstable shoe, so unless you really need some kind of extra support, I wouldn't worry about it too much with the Vomero Plus. And even though it's listed as a 10mm drop, it doesn't feel necessarily like that so much on the run. It's got quite a smooth ride to it because of the rocker on the shoe and the softness at the heels. So really, any kind of run I'll be looking to do with these two shoes, where it's a nice easy long run, just daily training, recovery miles, warm-ups, cool-downs, the Vomero Plus feels a bit better to me. And then when it comes to versatility, if you're looking at picking up one of these shoes to do all of your runs in, I do think the Vomero Plus is the more versatile shoe. It feels a bit better at fast paces with the extra bounce you get from it. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit nimbler too. So whether you're going to use it like I would to put in a rotation alongside faster shoes, or to use as your one shoe to do everything in, I would go for the Vomero Plus ahead of the Glycerin Max on this one, unless, like I say, you're really looking at that stable, slightly firmer ride and like the idea of that more, and are willing to pay a bit more to get it from the Glycerin Max. That's our comparison of the Nike Vomero Plus and the Brooks Glycerin Max. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.